The trick to this problem is that when we have 2 to a power minus 2 to another power, we can factor out 2 to some power. So what power do we factor out? Well, we always factor out the smallest power because they both have at least that many. Here the smallest power is 7 halves. So 2 to 9 halves divided by 2 to 7 halves. That leaves 2 to 2 halves, which is just 2 to 1, or plain old 2. Then 2 to 7 halves, take out 2 to 7 halves. Well, then you've taken out everything. Anything divided by itself is just 1. What is 2 minus 1? 1. And then anything times 1 is that anything, 2 to the 7 halves. That is our answer. All of these does not equal signs simply mean that this problem is not a trick question and there's no dividing by 0. So you can simply ignore them and do the problem the way that you usually would. Here we have an equation with fractions. The big trick on any equation with an equal sign and with fractions is that you can multiply by the LCD to get rid of all the fractions. So first of all, what is our LCD? Well, one of our denominators is x, so that needs to be part of the LCD. Y needs to be part of the LCD, and so does z. This means we take the equation they give us, and we just multiply each and every term by x, y, z, the LCD. And what that does is that will cancel out all the fractions. Over here, this x on top and this x on bottom cancel out, leaving yz. Over here, this y on top and this y on bottom cancel out, leaving 1xz. Over here, z's cancel, leaving xy. And we want to solve for x, which means we want the x's by themselves, which means we first need to get all the x's on the left side. I'm going to say minus xy and minus xy. So here they cancel, just leaving a 0. Here, there's no like terms to combine. There's nobody who's just xy, so we just get our own minus xy in front. Now that we have all the x's on the left, we want everybody without an x on the right side. So we need to subtract this yz over. And now we have negative xy plus xz equals negative yz. And what we want to do from there is factor the x out. If we have negative xy plus xz, we can factor the x out. That leaves negative y plus z. And the right side stays the same, negative yz. Last step in getting x by itself, whenever you have x times something, you divide by that something. So we have x equals the fraction negative yz over negative y plus z. Now it's a multiple choice, so they'll probably clean this up a little bit. They'll probably multiply both the top and bottom by negative 1. I'll just get rid of that negative in front there. It'll give you positive yz over positive y minus z. And that is our answer. If 5x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals 0, find x minus 1/5 squared. Well, a good starting point is to try to find x. What we have here is a quadratic equation, which means we can use the quadratic formula on it. Our x here is going to be negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that's probably the longest formula you'll be expected to know in algebra. So, to work that out, our a will be that 5, the number right next to the x squared. Our b is negative 2, the number right next to the x. And our c is negative 4, that number on itself. that number by itself. So x equals negative b becomes negative 2 plus or minus square root b becomes negative 2 minus 4a becomes 5, c becomes negative 4 over 2 times a becomes 5. And then there's a lot of simplifying. Negative negative 2 is positive 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. Negative 20 times negative 4 is plus 80. All over 2 times 5, which is 10. And then we can split this up. This is like 2 over 10 plus or minus square root of 84 over 10. And 2 over 10 will simplify to be 1/5. Now we could simplify this square root of 84, but since we're not done yet, we've got more to do. We will just leave it like that and not do that extra work. So now that we have x, we can just plug it in. We want x minus 1/5 squared. Now the test is fair, so you can pick either the plus or the minus. They'll both give you the same answer. I'm going to pick the minus. 1/5 minus square root of 84 over 10. And then we just need to do a lot of simplifying on this. First thing, we've got 1/5, and then we've got minus 1/5. So those cancel out, and we just have negative square root of 84 over 10 quantity squared. And then we just need to square everything. A negative squared becomes a positive. A square root squared just becomes that plain old number. Square root of 84 times square root of 84 is regular 84. And then 10 squared, 10 times 10 is 100. We've got positive 84 over 100. We're almost done. We just need to reduce. Well, 84 and 100, they're both even. They both divide by 2. 84 divided by 2 is 42. If you have trouble with that, you can just stop and do some long division. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 goes into 4 2 times. And that works out perfectly. 100 divided by 2 is 50. And then these are still both even, so we can still reduce them by 2. 42 divided by 2 is 21. 50 divided by 2 is 25. And now there's nothing these two both divide by, except for 1, which wouldn't make it any simpler. So that is our answer, 21/25.